That should work. Hey, everyone, welcome to the Jankyard. We've got myself, the treatment, and Killer Cactus joining tonight just to talk a little bit about Gen Con before it's out of our minds, and who knows what else. We'll see how long you can talk with your being sick and all. Let me just make sure. Can you say
Yeah,
something? Yeah, I got you.
yeah, I'm here. I'll apologize for my voice. It sounds like crap. I think I got the con crud.
Yeah, I definitely had
Hopefully
that.
it goes away pretty soon.
Just a persistent
Yeah.
cough and really gunked up. Carl's in the chat.
That's it.
Hey, Carl.
Hey, Carl.
Yeah. So, let's talk Gen Con because this was my first. You've been a bajillion times. So was this an average year? Was it a better year? What do you think? What'd you do?
Um, we had a really great show. Um, the whole time, and we played lots of different games. Besides Ashes, we played a couple Lorcana events. We played Heroescape. We played WWE Royal Rumble card game, which if you're a fan at all of professional wrestling, especially like the older like 80s and 90s era wrestling,
Right.
I would highly recommend this Royal Rumble card game. There was like 10 of us playing, super fun, completely ridiculous game. We're laughing the whole time. Um, it's just an awesome like $30 party game. And if you're into wrestling, I would
Ooh.
suggest for sure.
All right. Sorry, I had to buff your
So
volume and I just put it like probably made some people deaf.
that's all right. You'll get over it.
All right.
Yeah, so we played that the first night. We did one Hero Escape event. I used to play a ton of Hero Escape. Um, they just re-released that. My son Luke won a $200 master set, which was like a random raffle, which was awesome. Um, and then you and I and a bunch of the Ashes people got to play that.
Yeah, yeah, we'll talk about
Saturday
that.
night after the Ashes event. Yeah, so much fun. Um, and then the Lorcana stuff, I ended up 3-0ing one of the events and got a playmat. And Luke lost his first game in the multiplayer tournament, but then got paired up to the winners bracket and ended up winning that. So he got a playmat for that. So we got all this stuff. Um,
Man,
just
intern number two is killing it.
had a heck of a show. He was, dude. He was all over the place. Not intern number one's best show. He had a great time. Um, but he did not fare well in the Lorcana games. He did not fare. He went 2-1 in Hero Escape, which wasn't bad for him because he doesn't play that a lot. Um, but he did not outfinish me in Ashes the first time ever. In Gen Con that I finished above him. Um, but uh, but I mean he had a great time, and then we also came down with my two other friends, John and Kyle. Kyle's in the Ashes Discord now, and so he's a little known to the community. And I was actually really psyched for him. Um, I mean, he played the Royal Rumble game with us, had a lot of fun. He plays Lorcana. He played Heroescape too, and but the Ashes event, he started 0-2, and then he won his last three to finish 3-2. He got in the top eight and got a play mat, and that was his first ever event. So
Yeah, yeah.
he was pretty stoked to get that. I was excited for him.
He brought the heat. He brought what I was building my deck to be, which was the anti meta deck, the anti dragon deck. He brought Brian's dragon, Demona,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
he was my first matchup. Um, and I think there was just a couple misplays from him that really changed the game, and I was able to execute my plan. I was glad that I had that deck. It seems that
Yeah.
Astria
Sure.
flustered a few people. Like they were like, I did not plan against this at all. And anybody who had like a night open, it was just not in their plans. Um, And so I
Yeah.
came out, but then I gave him a couple pointers, and he turned it around. He said it was helpful, so that was awesome. And it was cool
Yeah,
meeting him.
he told yeah, he told me that too. He's like, treatment gave me some tips and I used them the rest of the way. Um, I was really excited. Kyle's like the first person I've been playing Ashes for gosh forever, right? Like since it came out the first time, and he's the first person I've ever showed the game to that I've like actually been able to sell it on it.
Right? Yeah.
And once he saw it, he was like just all in, and um, made all the comments new players make, right? Like this game, the deck building's so awesome. I don't even know what I'm doing, but it's so great. I love the first five mechanic, and I make one little mistake and like the game's just over. So sometimes, and I mean that's Ashes is very skill intensive, and he realizes that, so it's tough for new players. But um he got some practice in before Gen Con, but he was still pretty green,
I mean, going
and it
into an
was
event like that and getting a top cut or top eight is fantastic.
oh yeah,
And
this field was no joke for sure.
yeah, it was tough. There were so well. One thing before I jump past Kyle, it was funny because I guess he is such a used to playing other TCGs like Lorcana and probably Magic and stuff. I think it was the first turn or second turn.
Drew a card
He
probably.
drew a card, and I was
Yeah.
like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh right, we don't
Yeah.
draw cards every turn. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
no drawing cards. And I didn't like whatever. I was
Yeah.
like, put it back, and that's fine. But it was funny, and I think he had the temptation to do it again. He had like his hand on the deck. I was like, no drawing.
Yeah. Yeah. We the first time when I showed it to him and played with him, it was at a Lorcana event, right? So I did it. Like I was in like Lorcana mode, right? And then just got Ashes out and drew a card on the first turn. And then I was like, oh wait, can't do that. It's we don't play with physical cards ever in this game.
Yeah,
So like it feels different, right? Like Ashteki is different somehow than the physical game is. And those like now that I play a lot of Lorcana, I have those like TCG player habits too, and I want to draw cards, but thankfully I didn't do that during the Ashes event.
yeah. It's very weird because when I play Ashteki, I have the draw pile and the discard piles open. Same thing like when
Yeah,
I commentate. And so you have all this extra information. Sometimes you're using it to count. You can also see the conjuration pile count. You can
right.
quickly look at cards to reference, like, oh yeah, this is what they do, and it's just such a different, and it almost inevitably always quiet. Like, even if
Hmm.
you're texting back and forth, it's quiet. So it's just your own head. Um,
Right.
and so it was very different. I didn't know how I was going to do because it was almost the first time I've really ever played in person. Like I've taught some people, but to actually play it at a competitive level, I was like, oh geez, with a deck I'd only
Yeah.
played 3 times before, and I was like, well, we'll see how we
Hmm.
did. And yeah, but it was fun. Everyone was super casual, like in terms of like social and nice and laid back. It
Oh
was
gosh, the environment is so great
yeah.
compared to like every other card game in history. It's just so great.
I
And
was
like
less
my
stressed.
buddy John, than you were. Yeah, I am too in person than I am on Ashteki somehow.
Hmm.
Um, and some of it is just that person to person camaraderie, right? That you don't get when you're sitting in your living room playing on a computer. Even if you have voice open or whatever, it's just not the same. But like it's just so, and people say this about the community all the time, but it's just so like non-toxic.
Yeah,
And when you come in from other card games, I mean, the experience is very opposite a lot of the time. And I was hearing stories just, like I said, my buddy John came. He doesn't play Ashes. He played Lorcana the whole time. And he was getting, a bunch of toxicity just from like the few events he played in and the people like the random people that he played with. And he'd come back and complain. And like, me and Kyle are playing Ashes. We're like, yeah, everybody here is cool. Like, we're going out to eat after. And then he's playing Lorcana, and he's ready to like jump down these people's throats.
I
But it's a different
I really
world.
liked the yeah, like talk. I mean, I play with Shadow a lot, and I obviously talk with him while we're doing it. And generally,
Yeah.
I do find that being able to just chit chat can help break the tension, but it also gets you out of your own headspace too much. Whereas when we play online events, even if it's you know Phoenix League or whatever, I don't know, it just gets in your head and you're all alone and you're quiet, even if you have music,
Mhm.
and I just get stressed with some of these things. And so, I mean, it would be nice if I could play in person more, but everyone was super cool. I got to meet all of you guys. Like, so who was there? We had Charlotte, Brian, Shadow, you, uh, Stiletto, um,
Yep. Carl,
Kyle,
Matt.
Carl, Matt. Nick obviously was there, which was cool meeting him
Yep.
in person.
Nick was there.
There was a couple others, Maddie, who is also in the
Yeah.
Discord, and I think one or two others that are new. And then I think his name is Jared. He was like top four. No, Carl was fourth. He was like top five, and he's a guy who's just played in person. Like he's not part of the community, and he just came in, and
Yeah.
I don't even know what he was on, but it was
I don't know either.
yeah. And then there was Iron Man as well, which was really cool to meet.
Yep.
Um, yeah, so it was a blast playing. Let's talk about the field. As far as I know, because you saw different matchups, but we had at least three Odettes. We had
Yep.
two Demonas. Iron Man was on a Demona. Kyle was on a Demona. Brian was on
Hmm.
Leo. Carl was
There was at
on
least one other
Lulu.
Leo. Yeah, I played a Leo in the first round and Brian's Leo.
Yep. Um,
And I played another Astria as well. So
there was another
there were two
Astria.
Astrias. Yeah, it was not this
Oh, cool.
like traditional version of Astria that you were running. So I played him in the second round. He actually got a bye in the first round, so I queued into him. And after I won my first round game, I was his first opponent, but it was funny. I kept playing around Judgment
Yeah.
um in round 1, and I'm trying to make sure I get value out of all my stuff before my board gets wiped, and then he like Mark of the Goddess me instead, and and like blew up one of my guys. I was like, oh, I guess I was not expecting that. And I was like, I thought you would have Judgment, and he was like, and he hadn't even seen the Red Reigns card yet, and he was like, what's that? And I was like, oh, that's Astria's new card where it just wipes the board. You should check into it.
There was a
um,
Jericho, and
oh really? I didn't see that.
yeah, and Maddie was playing Koji, Fighting
Yeah.
Spirit Creeper, and then
Yep.
you
Tony was on Herald, right?
Tony was on. Yeah, Stiletto was on Herald. Inter number one was on Hope.
Hope. Yep.
So
Shadowhound Hope.
it was it was like a good showing of a lot of different styles, a lot of different decks, and I so that was just really cool. And
Yeah, and Carl was on Ren as well, so he
was Carl and Rin?
was
Oh yeah, not
that was
Lulu.
another one.
Well, it wasn't Lulu.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're okay. Right.
Yeah, Carl was on Ren. Somebody was playing
Somebody
Lulu
was on
though.
Lulu then. Yeah. Okay. So
There was a Lulu.
yeah, just really really cool to see such a breadth of Phoenix Born, um, and to see a mirror match with the finals Odette. That was. I know you might still be a little remiss because it was a real nail biter. It was super close. It was very fun to watch. Definitely did not expect Matt to have what like two or three regresses in that game.
Multiple for sure, more than one, and I did not expect more than one.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, Bowman brought all the regresses, and I was not ready for it.
and you both had
Um,
Valors
mm, yeah,
and Charlotte, who also
yeah, but
ran the other Odette, ran a Valor.
yeah, so Bowman opened his Valor,
Bowman, yeah.
and I did not. I'm never letting it go. He's Matt Bowman now. Um, yeah, he opened his and I didn't. Um, and the game ended up being pretty close. Now I don't, is that why he won? I don't know. I mean, if I won the first round board pretty handily because he opened Armor of Valor and he knew that. So I think it's a trade off. But like, it just that game just came down to a play error here or there. I misplayed multiple times. But that one right at the end, right before I lost the game, I just didn't. I just don't ever remember that Clashing Tempers exists, and I should because it's a
Yeah,
great card.
it is.
And I never account for it correctly. I just don't. And if I thought through that, and he'd played one earlier, so like I knew he had it, but I just I don't math for that card for some reason.
I think it's Fred's favorite card, so it's been on my mind. But you can catch
It's very good.
the exciting commentated play of that game by intern number two,
Yeah,
doing a great job. And we had swag. We had Jankyard swag there. We got
we did, which
shirts
is awesome.
for most of the crew and the
I think,
top five or
yeah,
top six.
I think my hoodie is in the wash. I was gonna wear it
Yeah,
for this. I
I know I'm
couldn't
not
find it.
wearing.
It's in the wash, so I didn't put it on. But it's fantastic hoodie.
I'll wear it next week
Um,
when we have Shmeny on because we're gonna do a proper
yeah,
episode. We'll cover some illusion cards and stuff and see like he's actually alive. It's been a while.
yeah, he is here. He's been speaking to us.
Yeah,
So he'll be back. The other thing, and I'm gonna jump away from Ashes just for a second. We come back to it. We did that True Dungeon
yeah,
together.
yeah.
We
That
didn't
was
talk about
interesting.
that. That thing was really cool.
It was really hard. So I have
Yeah,
some mixed feelings about it because it started so that if no one's ever heard of this premise, it's called True Dungeon. It's basically role playing mixed with an escape room and at least
and shuffleboard.
and shuffleboard. And at least for the one we did, which probably I don't know if all of them are like this or if it was tailored around the duration for Gen Con, but there was 4 rooms, and it was only about an hour, and that included the like setup time and training that you do. So really, each room we only had what 10 to 12 minutes,
Yeah, I think
and
it was 12 minutes per room.
those it flew by. I mean, we had 8 or 9 of us, so the communication is already kind of off. And we nailed the fighting rooms, but then the puzzle rooms we just completely whiffed. We whiffed hard.
Yeah, it was pretty difficult for so like in the monster rooms they have this like shuffleboard mechanic where they put a picture of a monster on like a table, a shuffleboard table,
Yeah.
and then you slide these pucks at the monster to see where you hit it, which I thought was really cool, and my kids got a kick out of. But then the puzzle rooms were just basically like one piece of an escape room, and I mean it was really tough to get with 9 people trying to, especially like when we didn't all know each other, like trying to work together and communicate. Oh, there's some treasure
I
right
got
there.
yeah, I got so these are like the coins you get and they each have items and we got a random bag of I don't know if that'll focus, but we got a random bag of 10. And so all these coins they're
We
they're your equipment, they're your armor, their staffs, their everything. And they all have
Yeah,
different, like they work for different classes. So we shared them around to actually get our equipment. And then this is what goes in the shuffleboard
yeah,
sort of
they're
mechanic.
magnetic, right? And they like
Yeah.
go in the shuffleboard puck, and then there's numbers around the outside of those things, so
Hmm.
it like that's kind of like your die roll, so to speak, as to like the random part of your attack. It depends on how it spins. I don't know how they do it, but I thought that battle system was really cool. But yeah, the puzzles were so difficult
So
to
hard.
figure out in 12 minutes. Um, I mean, imagine doing like an escape room in that period of time. I mean, these weren't easy little puzzles. Like they were difficult, and I think the first one we figured out what we needed to do, but it wasn't until it was too late.
We figured out in the
And
hallway on the way to the next one.
yeah, on the way to the next one,
Yeah.
and then the second puzzle, I think we just had no shot at.
Yeah.
Um, but I think so that one we did it was pretty expensive for that amount of time too. Um, but there are 7 room ones. I think the mostly there's 7 rooms. That was like the shortened version.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Um,
think,
that
like,
we did.
just like escape rooms, if you get too many people, it gets a little, uh, it's just too much, right? Like, there's sort
Yeah.
of an optimum amount of communication and amount of time that you get to be involved. Whereas when there's too many people, you're like, oh, well, how about you have a turn? And then you're not really doing that. So I think if there was 4 to 6 of us, that would have been fine. But the whatever was
Yeah.
10, it was too many.
Right.
But still, I like. It's cool that it's a system that's. I've gotten a couple of emails now about them in different,
Yeah.
states,
Me too.
and that you get. So at the end, uh, we, you get treasure from this box, and you got this one guy who was just standing by watching us pull our
Oh,
treasures. All of a sudden, he's like, "Oh my god, you got that thing!" And it was a blue coin. So they're all like the same coins, and he's like, "Oh my god, that's the thing that everyone's wanting to get into this special True Dungeon 3 months from now at some other
yeah.
convention."
Yeah. Apparently, like you can't get in without that or something.
Yeah,
I have one, and he's like, he told me I could sell it online for like $200, but I haven't. I don't know where to go to do that.
I don't know.
I haven't like done it.
You could look it up, but I
But
just thought that that was cool
yeah.
that you get treasure that you can then go to these other dungeons and you
Hmm.
carry your character forward. I haven't like logged my experience or anything because realistically, I'm probably not going to do more of these at least in the near future. But it's just like
Right.
that role playing aspect that carries on is really neat. So yeah, it was fun and it was cool being like I mean, just I think Luke amped up all these things. Hey, Dell, what's going on?
He
Um,
did.
I mean, so we did Ashes. Let's talk about that day because that was one of my favorite days. Um,
Hmm.
because I had a ton of fun doing games and stuff, but that day was just the greatest. Started at it was like 10:30, 11. Most of us met up early.
Yeah. Right.
Um, Meeting everyone was cool. It was pretty easy setup. Nick was there. He had boxes of stuff, which was awesome. Played the matches. I
So
think.
many.
Oh yeah, got all the alts. I
Yeah.
finally won the first ever card mat or play mat that I like. I don't have any others, so that was my
Yeah.
first play mat. I got the Wave Crash one.
There you go.
Wave Z is gonna be jealous. Um,
Hmm.
and then afterwards, we all went out for dinner, and um, that
What was
was
that place called that we ate at? Because it was awesome.
well, I don't know, because I was so done. I had been making
Yard House.
decisions
I think it was
with
the.
my friends and with my buddy,
Yeah.
and I was like, Charlotte, Brian, you guys make decisions, and Carl was in charge of
Yeah.
it too. So the three of them led us wherever. I was chaperoning Shadow, just through
Hmm.
traffic and stuff. So wherever we ended up, it was great. And then your buddy John, he was like, "You've never been here," and he recommended the whiskey covered salmon or trout or whatever. I
Oh
can't remember.
yeah.
Best.
Yeah.
It was so delicious. And then Charlotte was recommending the old fashioned for everyone, and things got a little tipsy by the end of it. And then
Yeah.
we went back to the stadium and busted out that set that Luke won, the Heroescape set,
Heroescape set. Yeah.
and there was 8 of us, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
and we played teams.
Well, there were 7 of us. There were 8 until Ben decided he didn't want to play anymore, and he went and played on his phone
Yeah, that's all
for
right.
40 minutes. And
It's a long day.
I manned that team. But I by the time I got to that point, my team was already destroyed, like decimated. And Charlotte just like rolled their guys over and just
Well,
dismantled my Heroescape team.
as is true to I guess his new theme, Brian played the dragon and just wiped
He did.
us all.
Oh
Uh,
my gosh, crushed it.
and yeah, it was Yard House. Carl is saying Yard House. That's what it was called.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was the Yard House. That was a really good place. Yeah, we did. Hero Escape isn't typically a team game, but like we play it with 8 people. So I kind of divided into 4 teams of two and just gave everybody an army that was close in point total. And so it was my son Ben and I, and then Treatment and Luke, my other son, and then Carl and Shadow were on a team, right? And then Brian and Charlotte. And man, I've played lots of Hero Escape. That game was I got crushed, but that game was so much fun. it
It
was
was
it was
so
just
much
so
fun.
fun. We were laughing the whole time we played it about one thing or the other.
Shit.
And um Luke had the best time
He
at
was
that game, which was
vicious.
awesome.
He
He
was
was vicious.
trash talking nonstop at like just
Hmm.
the balls on a kid to be around a bunch of people that he's more or less just met for the first or second time, and then to just go vicious with the like we're gonna take you down. There was like this like kraken octopus type of character that I think Carl was manning, and
Yeah.
we're attacking him, and he's like, looks like we're gonna have some calamari tonight. And then there was this Groot
Yeah.
looking character, and he's like, we're gonna rip you root from root. And I was just like, man, this
Yeah.
kid is going at it. And then eventually we created an alliance because the dragon was taken over, and so we had to turn it around. And ultimately, Brian won on the very last roll of the game. He rolled hot, but that was just yeah,
Yeah.
that was a great day. And I think my favorite part of the day was when we were sitting at dinner, and Charlotte, she was we were talking for a bit, and she said something along the lines of, now treatment, I just want to tell you from the bottom of my Kentucky heart that I'm really happy you're here, but I would have been so much happier if Schmendrix was here. And I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
we all wish that.
Yeah. Yeah, he was on vacation. We'll get him to come out one of these years, but he can make the trip. It's a little further for him.
That's a little further, but hey, it was great to get together. And yeah, the rest of the
Absolutely.
convention was really cool. I feel like it's like you get into a community. I mean, you're part of multiple. You and Carl, you guys do Lorcana, Chaos Theory and German are in Star Wars, and other games, um, and even when you just play, a certain number of board games, and then you show up there, and it's like there are hundreds of games I've never even heard of, and I try and
Oh
stay
my gosh.
a little bit on top of things.
Yeah, it's there's so much. It's just and like anything you can imagine. You walk through that exhibitor hall and there's just everything. It's just a really cool if you've never done it, it's a really cool experience to do at least once.
I so
Um
I will say that I mean Chaos Theory. I doubt he ever watches this, but I got my buddy and I. We played Dune Imperium Uprising, and
yeah.
um, it's really fun. It's a lot of fun. Definitely, if I had more regular board game meetups, that's one that I would get. It was a good time, um, and with the other, I played like three big ones. Uh, Dune Arc Nova was also a big hit,
Mhm.
and this new game that was marketed, you probably saw it everywhere. Rock Hard, the the
Uh,
rock and roll. It was
um
like pictures of
oh
like a
yeah.
rock and roller's Gene butt. It was a
Yeah, I
really
think I did
cool thematic game.
get there.
Design. So the cool thing is that the designer of it, Jamie Fuchs, was also known as Jamie Foxx in whatever it is the 70s 80s, and was the bassist for Joan Jett in the band.
Okay, I didn't know
So
that.
yeah, the lot of the game is really thematic and based off of some of rough roughly some of the experiences that they had and like tied into it. And It's all about becoming a rock star. But it was really fun. That was a cool game. And then, well,
Yeah.
Oxy's probably not on either, but I got to play Altered, and I bought two of the starter sets. Fun little game. And I didn't play Pokemon or Lorcana, but I did play Digimon and One Piece, and those were pretty cool too.
Digimon's an interesting game. I like their that the memory mechanic or whatever the sliding roller thing that
Yeah,
determines whose turn it is um that's a really cool way to determine like it's a really good resource management system.
yeah. I like the way that
I've only
everything,
played Digimon a couple times.
like you have your egg, your digi egg pile, and then you can hatch one of those, and then all the other Digimon, as you can evolve them, and they just stack on top of each other so that your new unit has all the powers of the previous unit. Um,
Yeah.
really, yeah, I could see myself playing that one more. That one was a lot of fun. Um, One Piece, we played the same starter against each other, so it was not like it was fun when the matchups were different. And then
Yeah.
Altered, there's I can see the deck building and the potential. Um, it's an easier game to teach, but yeah, it was fun having like so many different things that I could go, and then so many things that I could see, like just look at. They're wild, wild times.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the last few years I haven't really gone there to just demo things. Like I go with like I have a schedule that's filled up pretty much every day the whole time. And if I don't have an event going on, I'm usually like meeting somebody for work or whatever. Um, so it's I don't get a ton of free time. And this year was the worst for that actually. Usually we get like a demo or two in. This year I demoed nothing.
Oh wow.
We went from event to event and literally played no new games. I bought a couple, um, but that I'd like the one game I bought, the Stifling Dark. I'd seen the previous year, and I talked to the designer and the owner of that company last year, and they were just like finishing their Kickstarter, and it wasn't out yet, but just like it visually caught my eye, so I went and got that this year. I haven't played it yet. I need to bust that out one of these nights with the family. Um, Bought that. I bought a little game called Cartographers that I think is fairly popular. At least
That
there was
was
a
that was
couple people
selling
that
out
were
a
telling me
lot.
about it.
I saw that in everyone's
Yeah.
bag. I've heard of it before. It's not a new game. And it just
Yeah.
seems like now they have like a lot of different versions of it. So there was pencil and like a roll and write or card and write one. There was the card game version. There's
Yeah.
expansions for it. Um, yeah, there was a lot of that. Oh, sorry. Carl says I played Rock Hard. I ordered that one. Super cool. Yeah, it really cool game. They had like a limited number of copies every day. I think 100, 200 copies every day, and they were constantly selling out. But yeah, Cartographers looks interesting. It was interesting to me that there's like for a while all these games that were board games first. It was like now they're all becoming mobile apps or they're becoming Steam implementations or
Right.
TTS. And then this year, I haven't been before, but at Gen Con, I saw so many video games that I know of becoming board games,
Hmm.
which was really
Oh
interesting.
yeah. Yeah. That's happened more and more every year. And like you said, more and more board games are having like app attachments and stuff to them.
Hmm.
Like Plaid Hat's really big on that now, and I haven't got their freelancers, which is their newest Crossroads game. It's not the one they're kickstarting another one right now, but the one before that I haven't got yet. And I was watching them. I was talking to Colby a little bit at their booth and watching them play that, and that game looks really fun. And my family's really big into Forgotten Waters, which is their other like app based, or I guess their first one game, and that's a really fun kind of like party game. And freelancers is a lot like that, so I need to pick that up too at some point. But I didn't get that one yet, but I did get a couple of the other like couple of those games like I said I got. But yeah, I didn't get to like sit down and just try something.
Yeah.
I usually do that once a year at least. But just running around too much this year, man. But
Hey, you're
you
winning
said a
all
lot of
these
fun
prizes and
had, so it was
stuff.
worth it, dude. At everything we did, we just won something, either randomly drawn or like finished well. It was pretty crazy for sure.
I just gotta wait for my kids to grow up, and then I can, start getting them, family game night type of thing. Because the collection
Yeah,
I have is sitting around most of the time. I picked up like one Haba game, the company Haba that does little kid games. Picked up one
yeah,
for my daughter, and she really likes it, so it's good. Like, it's not anything crazy,
awesome.
but I just want her to be excited about playing games so that in 2 or 3 years, we can start playing some more stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot there for that too. I mean, you would think it'd be more like hardcore kind of strategy stuff, but a lot of like really down to earth family games you can find there.
Mm-hmm.
I bought a lot from there the last couple of years when, um, like the first year I brought Luke when he was a couple years younger. We got three or four like really good family games that we still play today.
Right.
Um, from there, and oh yeah, there's a lot of that stuff that's really cool.
There was so much to see, and I know that most of our time we spent just in the main convention center. We didn't even walk around because they do a pretty good job of being like, this hotel over here is all the role playing games, and this is where we're going to
Yeah,
do movie events and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, it was wild. But I had a lot of fun, and the highlight was definitely the Ashes Day.
no
And
doubt.
now I just want to play in person more. So I need to find.
Right, that's the problem.
I guess Bill got to get. I know he's local. We need to get a couple more. Got to
Mhm.
see so Stiletto and another Canadian. Um, they have created a game, and I got a free copy of it. I haven't played it yet, but it was just, I know that we met up at like some studio a year ago to play. So if we can just get a group going, then
It's cool.
get to play more Ashes. Get to put that playmat to use.
Absolutely. There you go.
Hmm.
Yeah, I got the gates thrown open playmat, and I haven't used it since Gen Con. I haven't seen Kyle since then actually. Or well, no, wait, I take that back. We played Lorcana last week. We'd had a sealed event for the new set, but I didn't bring my Ashes stuff. I need to
Lorcana, Lorcana.
rectify that.
I might get into that
Yeah.
eventually. Now that supply seems better, but it's still a matter of time actually getting out to a store or whatever. But it does seem like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I know that well, I think Carl, he also won when he was there. I don't know. He's in chat. I doubt he's paying attention, but he said he was like, oh, yeah, I
Yeah, he said he got a
won the first event that he showed up to and then wasn't going to go to the second one. So, too many
yeah,
people are
it's
good at card games.
right. Um I mean, Ashes is always, this community is my favorite and the one I've been part of the longest, and I'll keep playing Ashes as long as it's around. But like my wife will walk up to me and say, "Do you want to play Lorcana?"
Yeah.
And that's never happened before with any card game, so I kind of have to play it. But it is a lot of fun and it's very easy to pick up and learn. And it's Disney, so I like Disney and my family does, so it kind of works out.
I got a complete, like,
But
this is a tangent question, but
yeah,
um, so recently, my head is just all over the place. Recently, Dijon implemented the replay feature, and well, there's some problems with it. We debugged it over the weekend. I'm wondering what your thought is in terms of its impact on like the community or content, or like do you think, because I know for a lot of people, the whole like, hey, can we rewatch a game, or um you know being able to see some of these games that are the competitive games and being able to go through them step by step. Now we have that ability in theory, as long as someone actually clicks the save replay and uploads it. Do you think it's going to be valuable? Do you not probably going to bring anybody new in, but do you think it's going to keep people around, or do you think people are going to share things?
I don't know. I mean, it should be super valuable. Um, I wonder if it'll get used. Like we don't have a bunch of tryhards in the Ashes community that are gonna study the tape.
Mm-hmm.
I I just don't. I don't know if it's actually gonna happen, but like that's a super valuable thing, and I think in this game even more so than in other games. Um, Going back through those and seeing the lines and understanding where the misplays are and what you could have or someone else playing that game could have done better in a certain situation is extremely, extremely valuable.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's really awesome. And if you want to be a better player, I highly suggest watching as many of those as you can, especially the higher level games. Um, I just don't know if in reality it'll actually happen,
Yeah.
but I hope it does. Um, because it's really awesome that he put it in there. And
It's a lot of work. It's not
there's
a trivial amount
yeah,
of work. So I you know
absolutely
what?
not.
You just got to lead the charge. We got to do it and get other people to follow along. But yeah, that was just on my
Yeah, I
head
mean,
recently.
as far as content goes, I mean, it's people are saving these games. It'll, we don't have to necessarily schedule a time where we do it live. I mean, obviously, that's awesome if we can live commentate a game, but um, we can grab one of these games that someone, you know, shoot us a shoot us a private message and be like, "Hey, this game was awesome. I saved it." And
Yeah.
that's all you have to do, right? And we can just go grab it and put it on the channel and talk through it. And we should do some of that, right? I mean, we don't need to have it'll help us because we don't necessarily need to have a podcast topic if we wanted to do one every week, right? We could knock one of these games out if we don't have something specific in the community to talk about.
Yeah, I was thinking that just because there's been an influx, I think, of some newer players. Hopefully, they stick
Hmm.
around, and a bunch of them have been asking like, "Oh, is there any information on the what makes a good card, or how do you like
Yeah,
get better at this game type of thing?" And it's like, okay, well, if you just save a copy of your game and then we look at it, um, and we can step through it. That's pretty cool. Especially, I think there's the
absolutely.
option of like turning, or I don't know if he's implemented it yet, but the ability to see both sides or to be able to just see one side. So you can sort of think through as if you are that player. I don't know. Yeah, it's something that I think we should do. So if you do watch this later on our channel, and you're like, "Hey, I want some information from the Jank guys," then send us a a message with your save file, and we'll do it. That can be something cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Just record your game and send it to us, and we'll try and find a time to go through it and talk through it. I love looking. That was one thing I love watching Ashes and talking about it. I haven't played it as much as I would like to lately, but I will sit there and talk about it and watch games all the time.
We'll give our
So
best second and
I'd
third
be excited to do
place
that.
Gen Con opinions.
There you go. There you go. It is really cool that you and I both finished in the top three. I was very, very excited about that.
I'm
Um,
honestly,
it's
it was like so. That was a highlight because normally I don't make the top cut, and to do it a lot like in person at an event with an Astria deck was pretty
mhm.
cool.
Yeah, that was sick. I see. I blame Schmendrix. I think if he would have came, like just math would have dictated that we would have got top three then, right? All three of us.
That is how it
We
works.
just
Yeah.
would have had to.
Yeah.
So it's his fault that one of us didn't win because he didn't show up. So I'm not going to take the blame anymore for losing in the final, and it's going to be his fault.
There you go. And next week,
That's
I
it.
yeah, because I mean, I'm so today the first preview for Illusion just came out, and I am so excited for the cards, but I want to save that discussion for when Shmeni's on. So and then hopefully next week on Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday, there'll be another preview article, and we can cover those.
Yeah,
But this
Thursday
set
seems
is
like a
hype.
pretty good day for us to. Yeah, Thursday has seemed like a pretty good day for us to get together in the past. So maybe we can shoot for next Thursday after this preview comes out. I know that Fridays are going to be dead to me for about 10 weeks now that my son's in marching band, so we'll be at all the football games on Friday nights for the foreseeable future.
Uh,
But but yeah, I would love to talk about these illusion cards. Shade Prowler specifically scares me quite a bit. But it's going to be an awesome set nonetheless. I just can't wait to see the uniques
yeah,
that come out. I mean Victoria specifically, but all of them I just want to dive into and go through.
I'm
They're
very
always the
excited.
highlight for me of these sets.
I don't know if the uniques are the highlights for me. I like when we see the things that have been either missing or things that I just haven't even thought of. Those are the parts that excite
Yeah.
me, and how it will sort of shift, like either mechanically how it will shift the meta or otherwise. So, yeah, that'll be good. Oh, well, it's been 50 minutes, and this was just sort of an impromptu get together. Was there anything you wanted to cover while it was on your mind? Anything from Gen Con that stood out? Well, you said you didn't test anything, but like anything that you saw that you're like,
Yeah, I
hey,
don't yeah, I don't think so. I think the like I said, the Royal Rumble card game, other than Ashes, was kind of the highlight for me. I didn't know that game existed, and it's been out for 2 years, and it was so much fun, and I could see myself playing that with my buddies like every other week or whenever we get together, just having a blast with it. But like you said, the Ashes thing day for me was the highlight really of the whole event, and I'm still like in no universe that I think I would play as well as I played, especially since I hadn't played a ton
yeah,
leading up to this. Like I used to be a guy that was playing, 5 games a week or something online at least. And, it's been a game a week for the last couple of months. But that being said, it was pretty much that Odette deck that I've been playing and nothing else for quite some time. And I never do that. I'm usually bouncing around on a bunch of decks, but I told myself that I've not performed well at Gen Con in the past, so I kind of told myself I was gonna
stick
hone
with
in a
it.
little bit on something I thought was really strong. Yeah,
Yeah,
and try and iterate a little bit on a list. Um, and it was a deck that had no burn, no reach, and was just 100% all in on board control and swinging through the opening. That's the only way I win the game. Um, and I'm not used to that. I usually play something if I'm not playing a burn deck or a go wide finish with burn deck, it's like it's at least got some reach or some or like fatigue or something to push win, like to push the end of the game. I'm very, very adverse typically to playing a deck that has to outplay the opponent.
right. Yeah,
Like if I don't get more value out of my cards than my opponent gets, I don't win this game. Like there's no crutch, right? There's no oh I lucked into 3 burn spells this round. There's no oh I decked out my opponent rolled bad, so I decked him out first. Like that doesn't exist. There's no like standstill where I can swing through a board where no one thought I could for 10 or something. Like none of that stuff's there. It's just I have to play better with my 10 dice and my 5 cards than my opponent does. I'm not used to that. And I just didn't think I was not confident going in that I was going to be able to do that, but
but you
I
did.
I don't know. I got through it. Like it speaks to what we've said on here, right? If you want to get better with a deck, like play it over and over, iterate on it, understand it, learn it, and figure out what it needs and doesn't need. And I made a lot of tweaks and changes to that thing over the last couple months. And I
Yeah.
tweaked it after Gen Con again, actually. But um, and no nature either, which I'm very I always have nature in my decks, always. Or I feel like nature is the best color, and I didn't play it in this one.
The meta
And
the meta has
that's something
shifted. Like
too.
there's a lot of removal in other colors now. Ceremonial and
Yeah.
divine. And it was cool to see. I pretty much recall seeing all magic types, and like we discussed,
Hmm.
breadth of Phoenix Born. I think there was a breadth of styles. Like there were some control styles. There were mid range. There was, I think, at least two or three mill based sort of decks.
Yeah.
So it was just,
I played
yeah,
against Ash Spirit twice.
twice.
Yeah, first two rounds, both my opponents had Ash Spirits in their decks. The first round was a Leo that was very very similar to like our Turbo Mill deck that we built.
Wow.
Same spell board, almost the same dice spread. It's probably it was probably like 22 of the same 30 cards.
It was my only loss actually against Brian's Leo, and
Yeah.
I won't get into that, but I overthought it so hard because it was Brian, and I just I
Hmm.
tried to be too smart, and it was the one game that I changed my plan, and first five, and it was the one game that I just went from bad to worse. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was. I think everything's viable, and it's definitely something that I mean. This is I keep talking about this, but I want to get back into doing Schmoda Pro with Carl. I think September's a perfect time, right when he gets back to school. But in at least at some point, and that idea you were talking about, where you don't have reach as a crutch, and you just have to actually
Yeah.
play the board and learn what the good trades are and learn how to manage that's one thing that I think is tricky, and maybe the replay feature is actually going to be really helpful for that. But hopefully in the future we can find time to resume that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I guess I will say that kind of stood out to me with my deck that I played there was it was extremely ally heavy. I think my deck has like 18 allies or something in it,
Wow.
and it's it like when you think about kind of what I said, where you don't have a crutch and you have to get more value out of your cards and dice than your opponent when you're playing that way.
Mm-hmm.
Allies are allies are generally stronger than conjurations, right? They just are because they conjurations are able to be replayed, so allies are inherently stronger for the dice that you spend on them.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think that when it behooves you, I guess, if you're playing that kind of style of deck where you don't have that crutch and you have to outvalue your opponent, like going heavier on allies, I think is a good idea because you're just inherently getting more value, right, out of every time you play a card. If I'm spending two dice on an old salt, like I'm getting more value most of the time than like a two dice you're spending on a false demon or on a whatever,
Yeah.
you know,
Right. I understand what you're saying.
conjuration that you're putting out. Like my old salt is better than that. So you get a tiny bit of an edge, right? The drawback is that you're less consistent because you're relying on your draws, right, and not your spell board that you've set up. And you don't have as many dice every round to pump into that spell board. But I was sitting there a lot of games with just Lightbringer, right, on my spell board and nothing else to spend dice on.
Yeah.
So I was playing, one die from spell board and nine from the stuff in my hand. And as long as so that goes to your deck composition and whether or not you have card draw and how efficiently you can use dice powers and that sort of thing, convert those into value if you happen to draw into a bad hand. Um, and that's one thing. I did not get many bad hands. And event. My draws were pretty good, and I could always pretty much use my dice on the stuff that I had. So,
I mean, 18
that
allies,
was
you're going to
helpful
be
as well. But
consistent.
yeah, but like, you could draw 4 knights or something, right? Or 5
Sure.
1 cost allies. Like there's times where, there was one game against the Astria that I played in round 2 where like I went into round 2 or 3 and my battlefield was full because I was doing really well. I was kind of like winning the battlefield, but like I drew 5 allies.
Right. Yeah.
My battlefield's full, and I'm kind of like looking, thinking like, what the heck am I gonna do? Like I don't have I don't have self clear. I don't have I had Guilt Link in my deck, but it wasn't on the board. I was like, if he doesn't kill my stuff, if he just sits here, or like heaven forbid plays Neil, like, well, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna end up like enter the fraying my own guy or something. And I think luckily he early on swung into a 1 life unit or something. I let it die, and then I played an old salt and killed my own guy and started doing that to open up battlefield spots. He not done that, I would have been. I told him I showed him after the round because like the game ended right there, and I was like, dude, if you didn't kill my guys, I'm not sure what I would have did. I think I just would have sat here and watched you play for a round.
I have seen
Um,
a lot more ally heavy decks, though, where even on 3 spell boards, people are running, one book at most, or they're running, like, I've seen Brian run a lot of utility spells and then 1 book.
mhm.
And I don't know if that's because of the divine set specifically, where there's the obvious synergy with royal charm, or because of the tutoring with glory and being able to be more flexible that way, or if people are just tired of certain books, or I don't know what it is, but I've seen a lot of it, and it's really interesting. And it'll be interesting to see where we go in another 3 months after the next set. So
Yeah, I mean, if another, Shade Prowler is going to come out, and that's a book, it gets a lot of value. So maybe it shifts back to the
maybe
5 spell board, Phoenixborn being more viable. We'll have to see.
we'll see. We'll talk about it next week.
Yep. All right, man. It's time for me to go to bed. I'm out of gas.
Yeah, it's pretty late. Cool. So yeah, to Carl and Dell, if you guys are still around, thanks for joining us. Otherwise, whoever's watching us at a later point, if you're not janky, you're stanky. Frog up, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Have a good one.
Yep. Peace.